supposed to feel.
You can use CBT to improve your life. You can use CBT to overcome any phobia or any problem. So, if you're afraid of heights, assess why and then address those fears and reprogram the way that you think about them. If you find you're not great at meeting other people, you can practice in your mind and force yourself to face those fears. And you can take CBT further too and impact on other areas of your life. For example, if you're someone who struggles to get to sleep, you'll know it can impact on every other aspect of your life, leaving you tired and stressed. The problem? Well, the later it gets, the more stressed and anxious you become. And the solution is to apply a little CBT. This time, the focus is going to be on identifying your thought processes and seeing what would be more useful in that given moment. The problem is trying to force yourself to sleep. Now, when you do this, you create stress, and then when you're stressed, of course, you can't sleep. So instead, try reminding yourself that it doesn't matter if you get to sleep as long as you're resting. Resting is good for you no matter what, so just lie down and enjoy being comfortable. Focus on it and you'll be asleep in minutes. You can also use CBT to deal with stress. Actually, stress is not really one thing. Instead, it's a spectrum of responses that occur in response to dangerous situations. It all harks back to your inner caveman or inner cave woman, and the part of your brain responsible for triggering the fight or flight mechanism. Now, if you were attacked by a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger, you'd either want to fight it, kill it and eat it, or flee from it before it killed and ate you. And this function still has a use in our modern world. If your house was on fire, you would need to trigger this mechanism to get away fast. Likewise, if a mugger had you cornered, you may have to fight him off and escape. The trouble is, not everything we perceive as dangerous is dangerous. Deep down inside, we know this, so we ignore it. And this conflict with one part of your brain saying, this is dangerous, and the other part of your brain saying, no, it isn't, causes us to be stressed. Now, of course, some stress can be good for you. If you're up against a deadline at work or you're studying for an exam at school, then stress can spur you on to achieve your full potential. So the solution in dealing with stress is to step back from the situation and examine it logically. Are you really in any immediate danger? What's the worst thing that can happen? How realistic is the worst-case scenario? Now, when you do this, chances are that your stress levels will go down because you'll start thinking logically rather than using your gut instinct, your caveman, cavewoman, fight or flight mechanism. And you can also use a mantra to help you reprogram your mind to overcome the stress as well. Now, exactly what you use will depend on the situation, but you should reassure yourself that the situation isn't dangerous and you should keep calm and carry on. In addition to dealing with stress, CBT is incredibly effective for treating anxiety attacks. Now, ironically, one of the biggest dangers with anxiety attacks is that they make us stressed. Because we're stressed about anxiety, this makes us become even more stressed, and we work ourselves up into a fluster that can end with fainting and hyperventilation. Not good. The solution? Well, just acknowledge it for what it is and allow it to pass. say to yourself, this is an anxiety attack. I must let it run its course, and then you just allow it to happen and go about your business as you normally would and don't try to do anything about it. You can also do something similar when trying to be less stressed generally, especially when you're trying to calm yourself before a first date or before an interview. Instead of worrying about being stressed, just remind yourself that some stress can be good for you. Something else that's very powerful that you can use is to apply a gratitude attitude. Now, this is a bit like CBT, except in this case, you're not trying to combat a fear or stress. Instead, you're simply going to change your focus again, and this time, you're focusing on what makes you happy and what you're grateful for. And this is a great change because a lot of us are so caught up in everything that's wrong, we never think about how much is right. So take a moment at the end of each day and write down the things that you're grateful for. Your spouse, maybe. Your job, your house, your cat, the computer game you're playing. Write it all down and be grateful. Because there's so much to be happy about, but a lot of the time we miss it. So take your new ability to change the way you think and focus on it. And suddenly, everything becomes happier. In this video, I want to talk about how you can become more mindful, because becoming more mindful is a key way of reprogramming your brain to be more successful. Now, of course, the big question is, what is mindfulness? Well, essentially, mindfulness is a form of meditation that has been adopted by CBT. CBT, in turn, is cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's a psychotherapeutic approach used to treat conditions like anxiety, phobias, addictions, etc. And the fact that this is a form of meditation can put some people off. They think it's all new age and something hippies used to do in the 1960s when they weren't smoking dope, driving around in VW microbuses and calling everybody man. Others associate it with religion, like Buddhism, for example, and think that taking it up might compromise their own religious faith. And then there are people who aren't religious at all and don't want to be associated with it for that reason. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. You can practice meditation whether you are a religious person or an atheist. All meditation really is a directed attempt to control your thoughts and the contents of your mind. And in so doing, you can gain some peace and quiet, or at least be able to better understand the contents of your own brain. So meditation essentially gives us a tool we can use, not only to calm our thoughts and escape the stresses of the day, but also to reflect on the contents of our mind in the interest of self-improvement. And, well, that's all it is, really. Often, meditation means completely silencing all thoughts. And many types of meditation, such as transcendental meditation, instruct you to think of absolutely nothing. Often, this is achieved by focusing on your breathing, or a mantra, or a physical object like a candle flame. And this can be difficult for beginners, though, as they constantly find their mind wandering. Well, the idea behind mindfulness meditation is not to try and empty your thoughts, but instead to simply step back from them and observe them like a detached third party. And this way you aren't letting your thoughts affect you and make you stressed out, but you also aren't going to struggle with not being allowed to think of anything. And using this technique will also allow you to become more aware of your own thoughts, and in so doing, you'll be able to edit any thoughts that are leading you into trouble. Now, this may be the long-term aim of mindfulness when used in CBT. In the short term, however, we're simply going to use it to remove ourselves from our thoughts and emotions and get some calm and recover, ready to tackle the day ahead. So let's look at some of the practical ways that you can use mindfulness in your daily life. In this case, mindfulness simply means being mindful of what you're focusing on and what you're thinking about at any given point. And this is useful because very often you'll find that your mind isn't perhaps where it should be. For example, if you're walking through beautiful countryside but you're thinking about your work, then as far as your body is concerned, you may as well be at work. In this case, mindfulness can be used simply to make yourself more aware of where you are and to focus on what's actually going on around you. This means feeling the breeze on your skin, looking at the beautiful flowers and smelling the fresh air. When you do all that, you'll benefit much more from the experience. You can then use mindfulness to direct your attention to all manner of other things. For example, your physical sensations. Quite often we aren't aware of just how we're sitting, how we're standing, or how we're feeling. So take a moment right now to reflect on this. How comfortable are you at the moment? Does any part of your body hurt? If you're sitting down, where's the most pressure on you? Can you feel your clothes against your body? A watch, maybe. How warm are you? Are you leaning more to one side or another? This kind of mindfulness can be useful if you want to try and fix your posture, but also if you want to improve your abilities in sports or just move more efficiently. Being mindful of the way you speak can also help you to speak more eloquently, to stop using derogatory words, to stop swearing, or to change the whole way that people perceive you. For example, if you want to sound more intelligent, you can simply try using bigger words or speaking a little more slowly. You can also use mindfulness to be happier in everyday life. Simply try to stop letting negative emotions affect you by identifying them as temporary and destructive. You can simply notice that you're getting angry and acknowledge that your thoughts will be tainted by that. With practice, this can make you a much calmer, a much happier person. But what do you find when you try and do this? In all likelihood, you'll find that you forget. And this is just like the same way you forget to pick up a pint of milk when your spouse asks you to, and it's the same way you forget to take back a library book every once in a while. Most of the time we have no control over what we're focused on or paying attention to. We find ourselves forgetting things, getting into bad habits, or stressing when we should be enjoying ourselves. Practicing mindfulness, both as a form of meditation and during the day, can help to improve your ability to control your thoughts and decide how you want to improve yourself and what you want to focus on. When conditioning your mind for success, sometimes it's hard to break old habits and change everything at once. And that's where Kaizen and the law of attraction come in. Let's look at each of them in turn. Kaizen is Japanese for improvement, and when used in the business sense and applied to the workplace, Kaizen refers to activities that continuously improve all functions and involve all employees from the CEO to the assembly line workers. When used generally in your life, it can mean lots of little changes that add up to one very big change. It might mean breaking bad habits one step at a time, or achieving a main goal by achieving lots of little goals along the way. So let's say your goal is to quit smoking. Well, your first step will be to stop smoking cigarettes and start using patches and chewing nicotine gum. Then you gradually cut down the patches and finally you reduce the amount of gum. And each step along the way leads you closer to reaching your goal of quitting smoking and eliminating your addiction to nicotine. Another example would be learning to play a musical instrument. As you practice, you slowly get better and improve your performance. Now, Toyota, the car manufacturer and big Japanese conglomerate, have taken this to a whole new level. The Toyota production system is known for Kaizen, where all line personnel are expected to stop their moving production line in case of any abnormality and, along with their supervisor, suggest an improvement to resolve the abnormality which may initiate a Kaizen. And they actually do this in a way that's also known as the Schuhart cycle, Deming cycle, or PDCA. And you start with plan. So you plan what you're going to do, and you do it. Then you check it, and then you act. That's the PDCA. Now, in between do and check, there's also another cycle that you go through. You start with problem finding, display, clear, and acknowledge. And this whole thing is a continuous loop, or two intersecting continuous loops. So as soon as you've completed the last step, which is act, immediately you're starting to plan again. So you're planning the next step. So plan, do, check, problem find, display, clear, acknowledge, act, and then plan and on to the next step. And the whole thing is a continuous cycle over and over and over again. So it's a continuous improvement with every step of the way. Now consider the law of attraction. This states that like attracts like, and if you act in a certain way, your life will change to match. When applied to health, the law of attraction states that worry, fear, stress, or other negative thoughts can make people sick, while positive thoughts of wellness or love can keep people healthy and even cure illnesses. And this can be seen in scientific studies where the placebo effect takes place. Those who receive fake sugar pills tend to become healthier due to the mere fact that they think they're getting treatment when they aren't. Proponents also claim that an important part of maintaining health and curing illnesses is to be able to visualize yourself as being healthy. In finance, it's claimed that if someone consistently thinks prosperous thoughts, then irrespective of their actual situation, they will experience prosperity in the future because like attracts like. Conversely, if a person consistently thinks they are poor, then that will be their future experience. Law of attraction proponents claim that it affects our relationships because whatever we focus on, we experience more of. So if an individual focuses on another person's good qualities, then they experience more of those. Whereas if they focus on what they dislike about that person, those will be the characteristics of that person they experience. They also claim that if you can visualize that a certain person is being nice to you, then you'll be attracting experiences to match those thoughts. When it comes to ambitions and things you want out of life generally, it's claimed that when someone visualizes clearly and in detail what they want to achieve and focuses upon that image, they set in motion through the law of attraction a chain of events which eventually culminates in the materialization of that vision. So act confidently, dress well, look great, and people start taking you more seriously. You then start to be given more responsibility at work and your career improves. You make more money, enabling you to live a healthier lifestyle. This makes you more attractive to the opposite sex, and your life generally becomes better. When combining Kaizen and the law of attraction, it brings changes to all areas of your life and facilitates improvements across the board.